Around this time last year, I made a video highlighting some young rising ATP stars to look out for in 2023. One of those players I highlighted, Ben Shelton, had a pretty decent season that included a Slam quarterfinal, a Slam semifinal, an ATP 500 title, and a career high of 15 in the world. As the 2024 season approaches, I wanted to put y'all onto some more up-and-coming talent who could have the potential to set the tour ablaze like Shelton did. The first player I'm highlighting, Shang Chun, beat Shelton in back-to-back tournaments this summer. Shang, nicknamed Jerry as in the mouse from the Tom and Jerry cartoon, is 3 years younger than Shelton at 18 and represents China. Shang, a former junior world number 1, made his pro debut at the 2022 Rio Open and made a huge rise in the rankings that season, going from outside the top 650 to 192. He was on course for another big push in 2023 after he qualified for his first major at the Australian Open and won his first round match. However, Shang's momentum was halted after he was diagnosed with mono, which impeded him for roughly 4 months. The Chinese man won just a single match at any level between the Australian Open and Roland Garros, where he came through qualifying before falling in the first round, where he led his opponent 2 sets to love. Still, Shang picked up a few tour level wins this summer, reaching the round of 16 at both the Atlanta and DC Opens. Jerry had some more tour level main draw opportunities during the Asian swing, but he narrowly fell in all 3 of his matches. Still, I've been very impressed from what I've seen from Shang the few times I've watched him play. He has a big serve and forehand and it moves very well and is an overall great athlete. Perhaps that comes from his father being a former pro football player and his mother a former pro table tennis star. Jerry also has a solid foundation, being coached by Dante Bottini, the former coach of Kei Nishikori. I hope Jerry can remain healthy in 2024 so he can compete in more challengers to get that ranking back up higher. He only has 1 challenger title to his name, but I think he can win at least 3 next year. Focusing on the positives, it's great that Shang has the experience of qualifying for 2 majors at such a young age. That'll help him as he continues to compete in these high-level tournaments. Another 18-year-old who made a splash in the majors this season was Yakob Menik. The Czech was a talented junior player as well, reaching the finals of the 2022 Australian Open boys event. I honestly knew nothing about this kid until this year's US Open, where he came through qualifying to reach the 3rd round on his Grand Slam debut. At 17, Menik became the youngest man to reach the US Open 3rd round in 23 years. Menik's US Open run was truly a shock because aside from winning a challenger at home in Prague earlier in the season, he didn't have that many notable results at any pro level. Clearly, that US Open performance gave him a lot of confidence because a few weeks later, he picked up his best career victory to date over Dusan Lajovic during a Davis Cup tie with Serbia. I honestly am not expecting Yakob to come out the gate swinging at all in 2024. He's still rather inexperienced and still has to develop a lot game-wise. At 6'3", he's a pretty big guy and he plays like it. Menik describes himself as an aggressive baseliner with a huge serve to boot. We could have the next Tomas Berdych on our hands. Berdych is one of Yakob's idols, as is Novak Djokovic, who spent a week training with him after that Aussie Open Juniors final. I could see Menik having one relatively big breakout moment on the ATP Tour, as well as racking up some challenger titles. I predict he will crack the top 100 at some point next season. At number 6 is Japan's Shintaro Mizuki. I first heard about Shintaro back in 2019 when he claimed the Wimbledon boys title. He made his ATP main draw debut 2 years later, but it took him 9 main draw first round attempts before he claimed his first tour level victory. He accomplished this milestone at home at the Japan Tokyo 500, where he also pulled off a massive upset over top seed and defending champion Taylor Fritz to score his first top 10 win. Mizuki reached the semifinals of that event, which shot him over 80 spots to 131 in the world. Tokyo was an absolute dream week for Shintaro, and him playing in front of his home crowd really brought out some of his best tennis. Maintaining the level he showed that week won't be easy, but he can take solace in knowing that the monkey is finally off his back as he has those first few ATP Tour level wins under his belt. I'd like to see Mizuki build more confidence on the Challenger Tour and rack up a couple more titles there. Currently, he has 1 to his name, which was on the clay. Speaking of services, I think Mizuki's game can be suited for pretty much any court. He's solid from the ground, but he also isn't afraid to come to the net and take initiative there. I think top 100 is attainable for the young Japanese star this upcoming season. The fifth young man on this list is Haman Movich, who also had a big breakout tournament recently when he shocked the field at the ATP Next Gen Finals to become the lowest ranked champion in the event's 6-year history. Movich followed in the footsteps of his idol and mentor Novak Djokovic, who won the Big Boy ATP Finals the week prior. Brief side note, the world number 1 sent the youngster messages of support during the ATP Next Gen Finals and even gave Haman financial assistance earlier in his career. Movich stormed through the field in Jeddah, going undefeated in all 5 of his matches, including in the finals where he toppled top seed Arthur Felix. Next Gen Finals aside, 2023 was a pretty big year for Movich. He recorded his first ATP victory this season and reached 2 semifinals in Gstaad and Astana. He also has success on the Challenger circuit, winning 3 titles in 2023. Movich is a large presence out there on court from both his personality and his game. Haman has the full package. His serve, forehand, and backhand are all huge, and he has very strong net skills. In addition to being mentored by Djokovic, Movich is coached by former world number 12 Viktor Troicki. I think winning the Next Gen Finals will give Movich a lot of confidence when he faces high-ranked opposition in 2024. If he does play like how he did at the finals, he should crack the top 50, no cap. Our next young rising star, Alex Michelsen, had a debut pro season for the books as he began 2023 ranked 600 and ended it ranked inside the top 100 at 97. Michelsen's first major confidence boost was when he reached his first Challenger final in Rome. The summer brought even greater milestones for the 19-year-old, who made his ATP main draw debut at the Mallorca Championships, where he narrowly fell to Christopher Eubanks in the opening round. I think coming so close to beating Chris, who went on to win that event before reaching the quarterfinals at Wimbledon, showed Michelsen that he too can achieve big things on the tour. Now, July was a massive month for Michelsen. He won his first Challenger title in Chicago, and the following week at the Newport 250, he not only won his first ATP main draw match, but he went all the way to the final, falling to Adrian Mannarino. The former Georgia commit turned pro 2 weeks after that run, foregoing his college eligibility. Michelsen also made his major debut at the US Open as a wildcard and made the second round. He then picked up his second Challenger title in Knoxville to crack the top 100 for the first time. Watching Alex immediately gave me Jenson Brooksby vibes, with his backhand being his biggest asset, as well as his excellent movement and defensive skills. Brad Gilbert also drew comparisons to Tommy Paul, which I also see. I think 2024 could be a great season for the young American. I can see him earning some big top 20 wins next year as he continues to play higher level tournaments. I also think a top 50 debut is in the cards. One thing I admire about Alex is that he kind of had to get it out of the mud. Unlike some other less talented young players, Michelsen wasn't handed a whole bunch of wild cards. He earned his way into these big tournaments. He made the main draw cutoff for the Australian Open too, so we'll see how he performs there. At number 3 is 19-year-old Belgian-born Frenchman Luca Van Ashe. Van Ashe enjoyed a successful junior career, winning the 2021 Roland Garros boys title. Van Ashe first got on my radar when he pushed Novak Djokovic to 3 sets in Banja Luka this year. Luka's rise in the rankings began in late 2022 when he won his maiden challenger title in Maya, making him the youngest player inside the top 150 at the time. His performance earned him a wild card into the 2023 Australian Open, where he made his Grand Slam debut, losing in the first round to Cam Norrie. Van Ashe later claimed 2 Challenger 125 titles, making him the youngest player ranked inside the top 100 again at the time. As the Frenchman's ranking increased, he began playing more higher-level tournaments, gaining solid wins over the likes of Alejandro Davidovich Fokina and Stanislav Wawrinka. He also earned his first Slam main draw win at home, Roland Garros. Van Ashe has very solid ground strokes with great shot tolerance and defensive skills. He doesn't have a huge outline weapon, so I am a bit concerned about how he'll fare on the faster surfaces against opponents who can overpower him and take advantage of those bigger, loopier ground strokes, especially on the forehand. Still, if you put in the hard yards during the offseason, Luca can surely build on his solid 2023 and break inside the top 50. The penultimate guy on the countdown is also the oldest, with 23-year-old Alexander Shevchenko. Shevchenko turned pro in 2018, but only made big strides this season, currently enjoying a career high of 48 in the world. Shevchenko is definitely more of a late bloomer compared to other guys on this list, as he didn't earn his first ATP victory victory until this year's Barcelona Open. Alexander has success on the Challenger Tour too, winning 2 titles, which helped him crack the top 100. The Russian also made his slam debut at Roland Garros, where he picked up his first major victory. Now, the first time I heard about Shevchenko was pretty recently during the Basel 500, where he first took down Wawrinka before outlasting Taylor Fritz in a 3-hour epic in the round of 16. There, he saved 15 break points and 2 match points to claim his first top 10 win. After narrowly falling to eventual champion Felix Auger-Aliassime in the quarterfinals there, Shevchenko reached his first ATP final in Metz the following week, beating Karen Khachanov en route for his second career top 20 win. Shevchenko kind of gives me Sasha Bublik vibes with his crafty play. He's also very good at the net and has nice touch with the edgy drop shots. Alexander's game is very versatile. He can drop back and be a consistent baseliner that really gets everything back in play, or he can step in and go for his shots with explosive ground strokes. Now, his serve isn't that big and can be a bit of a liability at times, especially that second serve. The beginning of 2024 could be big for Alexander because he really seemed to be making gains towards the end of this season. Maybe he can carry some of that confidence into Australia and could perhaps cause some upsets down under. By the way, Shevchenko had a pretty major life development off the tennis courts this winter, marrying 27th ranked WTA star Anastasia Potapova. Before I reveal the final player on the countdown, I want to highlight some other young stars to keep an eye out for in 2024. First is 22-year-old Brit Jack Draper, who I would have included on the main list if I hadn't already highlighted him in last year's countdown. Draper struggled with injury for much of 2023, so he still hasn't had his big breakthrough season like Shelton did. Draper did have a strong end to the season though, reaching the second week at the US Open, winning a big challenger title in Italy before finishing runner-up at the Sofia 250. If Jack stays injury-free, 2024 will be his big breakthrough season in my opinion. 21-year-old Swiss Dominic Schricker was also included in last year's countdown, but I have to mention this young lefty again because he showed great promise in 2023. Schricker's big moment came in Flushing, where he came through qualifying to reach the round of 16, upsetting world number 7 Stefanos Tsitsipas. Dominic also earned another top 10 win, beating Casper Ruud at home in Basel. Italian 22-year-old Matteo Arnaldi was another surprise US Open round of 16 player, as that run helped propel him into his current career high ranking of 41 in the world. Arnaldi is racking up more and more victories over these top players, and recently played a big part in Italy's Davis Cup Finals victory over Australia. And then 18-year-old Croat Dino Prismic has also been touted by many to have a big 2024 season for his standards. Prismic is the reigning Roland Garros boys champion, but he also has some success on the Pro Tour, winning his maiden challenger title at Banja Luka in August. In addition to claiming his first ATP main level win at home in Umag, Dino earned his first top 30 win in Stockholm when he defeated Yuri Lehechka. And finally, this should come as no surprise, but my final ATP young gun to watch for 2024 is 19-year-old Frenchman Arthur Felix. Felix enjoyed a tremendous rankings rise from 251 at the start of 2023 to number 36 at its conclusion. The interesting thing about Felix is that the majority of his big career milestones have been in front of his home crowd in France. He made his ATP main draw debut at the 2022 Rolex Paris Masters as a qualifier, and he earned his first two-level win at the Montpellier Open as a wildcard and reached his first ATP semifinal there. Felix made his second ATP semifinal at Marseille the following week, beating Wawrinka in the process. Then during the clay swing, Felix picked up his first tour title in Lyon. He then cracked the top 100 soon after, becoming the youngest active player to reach that milestone. The following week, Arthur made his slam main draw debut, falling to Davidovich Fokina in a tight 5-setter, but he managed to have one more strong showing on the clay this season when he made the Hamburg 500 Final Four. There he took down Casper Ruud for his first career top 5 win. Later that year, the Frenchman recorded his second career top 10 win, beating Tsitsipas en route to the European Open Finals. And then of course, Felix ended his 2023 with another runner-up finish at the Next Gen Finals. Felix's talent is evident when you watch him play. He has a big serve and forehand and is very explosive, bringing a lot of energy out there to the court. Arthur says he identifies the most with Jo-Wilfried Tsonga, and I can definitely see that parallel. The 19-year-old is also the first French team to finish the season ranked inside the top 50 since Richard Gasquet and Yakob Menik did it back in 2005. I'm curious to see whether Arthur can go even higher in the rankings or instead have a bit of a sophomore slump as more guys figure out how to play and beat him. A lot of this depends on Feast's off-season developments. He did spend time training with Rafael Nadal the past few weeks, so perhaps that will do him some good. Being transparent, I think it will be challenging for Feast to reach that next level and crack the top 25 or top 20. That being said, he isn't defending a whole lot of points in the very early part of the year, and I think he can make gains in the majors, especially if he manages to grab a seeded spot. That's where I'm hoping he can make big gains in the majors or the Masters, perhaps get a quarterfinal showing in a 1000 or a second week showing in a slam. If Feast continues to maximize his strengths, the serve and forehand, while also improving in areas where he isn't as strong in, such as the backhand, it can be done. What we saw in 2023 was very promising, and I'm excited to see what Feast does next year. That's all I have for this countdown, and let me know which of these players you think will have the most successful 2024. Also, feel free to comment below any other rising stars that I may have missed in this one. Make sure y'all subscribe and click the notification bell too, so you're notified whenever I post my top rising WTA players to watch in 2024 video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all soon here on Grand Slam Tennis News Today.